Good morning, sir. Good morning, classmates. I am Ivy Rose M. Batapa, and my fellow reporters are Mr. Reggie S. Buhisan and Miss Rayhana P. Idris, and we are the reporters of Module 6, which is the product-oriented performance-based assessment. So now, I will be discussing the first topic. So our report in Module 6 talks about base education poses a challenge for teachers to design instruction that is task-oriented. So this module is built on the premise that learning needs to be connected to the lives of the students through relevant tasks that focus on students' ability to use their knowledge and skills in a meaningful ways. So in this case, performance-based tasks require performance-based assessment in which actual students' performance is assessed through a product such as a completed project or works that demonstrate level of task achievement. Refers to the output that was made by the students during their performance or the performing the assessment that was given by the teachers, and in this way the teachers can evaluate their students if they really understand the topic by giving them assessment and by giving some rubrics so that the teachers can evaluate if the students are really enhancing their knowledge in different ways. So, we have three types of product-oriented performance-based assessment. So, the number one is the product-oriented learning competencies. So, it means that students' performance can be defined as targeted tasks that lead to a product or overall learning outcomes. Product can include a wide range of students' work that target specific. So, it means that in this product-oriented learning competencies, it is the actual performance of the students that can assess through through a product. So ang tinutukoy dito na product-oriented is yung capability ng estudyante if na-perform niya ba or na-achieve niya ang dapat niyang matutunan sa lessons by the use of rubrics used by the teachers to test the capability of the students. So, for example, communication skills such as those demonstrated in reading, writing, speaking, and listening, or psychomotor skills requiring physical abilities to perform a given task. So, we can test the students through their communication ability or skills. So, in reading, the teachers can test the students if may natutunan ba siya through reading pagkakaroon ng actual reading or pagpapabasa ng teacher sa estudyante sa harapan. Matitest doon ng teacher if talagang marunong na bang magbasa ang kanyang estudyante. So, in speaking naman is through communication, through oral. Kung matitest ng teacher if nasasagot ba ng estudyante ang mga tanong ng teacher at kung ito ba ay tumutugma sa dapat nasagot na hinahanap ng teacher. So, in psychomotor naman, the teacher can test the students through their output like their scrapbook, their journals, or their essays. So, in that different ways rather, the teacher can evaluate if the students are really understand the topic during their discussion by their output at the end of the class. So, in the next In the next slides, we can know what is the psychomotor skills. So, psychomotor skills is requiring physical abilities to perform a given task. So, ito na nga, yung psychomotor skills, it is the ability physical abilities of the students or an individual to perform a given task. So, by using rubrics is one way that the teacher can evaluate or assess students' performance or proficiency in any given task as it relates to a final or learning outcomes. The learning competencies associated with product or outputs are linked with an assessment of the level of expertise. So, ito na nga, tong topic na to is tumutukoy sa output ng bata if they are really understand the discussion given by their teacher. We have different level. So, these are the novice or beginners level, skilled level, and expert level. So, these three level it talks about the students' capabilities. Ito yung kakayahan ng mga batang gawin yung output nila. So, there are other ways to state product-oriented learning competencies. For instance, we can define learning competencies for product or outputs in the following ways. So, in level 1, thus, the finished product or project illustrates the minimum expected part or function. It is for the beginners. So, as you can see in the pictures above, there are drawings of trees there. But in the level 1, nakikita nyo naman na ang nakalagay na picture dito is yung puno na simple lang. So, ito yung, pag beginners ka kasi, nagsisimula ka pa lang, syempre, hindi agad maganda yung output na magagawa mo kasi nagsisimula ka pa lang. So, as you can see in the pictures, simple lang yung puno at wala pa siyang kulay. So, parang kakayahan ng batang gumawa ng puno in a first starter. Kaya nga beginner. So, on level 2, thus the finished product or project contains additional parts and function on top of the minimum requirements which tend to enhance the final output, which is skilled level. So, dito, ang kakayahan ng bata is medyo nag-i-enhance na. Marunong na siyang magdagdag ng kulay at yung puno naman is medyo may kagandahan na. Nakikita niyo naman sa picture. So, and number 3, thus the finished product contain the basic minimum parts and function have additional features on top of the minimum and aesthetically expert level. In this part, the students can draw a tree or can make an output in expert way. So, as you can see, this 3 level, it talks about the rubrics that the teachers use to evaluate their students' capability to understand and to follow instruction given by the teachers. So, we have here another example. So, the desired product is representation of a cubic prism made out of cardboards in an elementary geometry class. So, the learning competencies is the final product submitted by the students must have the following. So, number 1 is possess the correct dimension 5 by 5 by 5 minimum specification. So, minimum specification, it means the beginner's capability in doing that output. So, number 2 is be sturdy, made of durable cardboards and properly fastened together. It is the skilled specification or the capability of the students where is more expert than the beginner. So, number 3 is in pleasing to the observer, preferably properly colored for aesthetic purposes. So it is the expert level of the student's capability in doing the output that given that based on the assessment given by their teachers. So another one is the desired product is a scrapbook illustrating the event called EDSA 1 People Power. So the learning competencies is the students have the following for number 1, contains pictures, newspapers, clipping, and other illustration for the main character of EDSA 1 People Power, namely Corazon Aquino, Fidel B. Ramos, Juan Ponce Enrile, Ferdinand M. Marcos, and Cardinal Sin. So it is the um the output of the students were in the beginners. So sa paggawa nila ng scrapbook, hindi pa siya kumpleto. Kumbaga, kung ano lang yung mga litrato lang yung nalalagay nila at saka hindi siya full detailed. So, in number 2, it is contains remarks and captions for the illustration made by the students himself for the roles played by the character of EDSA 1 and People Power 1. So, in this part, hindi na lang litrato yung nalalagay nila. Meron na ring mga words and meron na silang explanation about doon sa EDSA 1 or People Power 1. So, in last part is be presentable, complete, and formative and pleasing to the reader of scrapbook. So, in this part, kumpleto na siya. Well detailed, pleasing, mas presentable na siyang tingnan as mas nakakakuha ng atensyon ng mambabasa. So, performance-based assessment for product and project can also be used for assessing outputs of short-term tasks such as one illustrated below for outputs in a typing class. So, the desired output consists in a typing class. So, the learning competencies is the final typing outputs of the students must, number 1, is possess no more than 5 error in spelling. So, ito yung beginners, the skills of the students they are only in the beginning or they are starting. So number 2 is possess no more than 5 errors in spelling, observing proper format based on the document to be right or written. So it is the skills of the students wherein wala na masyadong mali. Nakaka-follow na sila ng format and mas detalyado paggawa ng output ng estudyante. So lastly, has the proper format and is readable and presentable. So ito na yung complete output of the students. It is the successful output, kumbaga. So notice that in all above examples, product-oriented performance-based learning competencies are evidence-based, that the teachers need concrete evidence that the students has achieved a certain level of competence based on submitted product and project. So yun na nga, yung topic namin is all about the output of the students by doing some projects that was given by the teachers, and if the teachers it is also the way of the teachers in evaluating the students if they are really understand the topic and they enhance and explore their skills in doing project and improving their knowledge in analyzing all the situations. So the next slides or the next topic will be presented by my fellow reporters. So Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am Rayhana Fedris. Today I will continue to discuss in this lesson which is task designing and how should teacher task design a product oriented performance based assessment. The task designing in this context depends on what teachers desire to observe as output. In this discussion, we have four concepts associated that are task designing. So, what is the purpose of task designing and how it is important for students and teachers and how no you have learned in this subject. Task designing, it is help for the student to demonstrate and how will they achieve and also how they will learn from the teachers. The first one for the four concept of associated is complexity. The level of complexity the project need to be within the range of the ability. So uh, if you high school teacher, you will give them the task to the students that's range the ability. For example, ang itinuturo mo sa kanila ay mathematics. Binigyan mo sila ng problem solving na pang college level, they can't perform, or binigyan mo sila ng simple task. Maybe it's interesting, uninteresting, or boring them. Dahil hindi nila ito ma-perform ng maayos dahil hindi kaya ng kanilang utak or hindi nila level. Dapat ikaw na teacher, binibigyan mo sa kanila na assessment or activity is kaya ng kanilang utak or you give them as interesting or enjoyable. Number 2 is a feel. The project or activity must be appealing to the student. It should be interesting enough so that the students are encouraged to pursue the task competition. So, for example, as a teacher, you make a project very appealing to the student. We feel enthusiastic, or you give them a interesting topic or activity. Number 3 is creativity. Creativity, the project need to encourage students for exercise, creativity, and diverse thinking. So, through creativeness, they can make plan creative or they can learning something. Another creativity is using materials or asking questions. So this the student is must be interesting and enjoyable. Number 4 is goal-based. Goal-based, the project is produced to attempt a learning or object, thus enforcing learning. Uh, for example, the project that you will give to the student na just something. Papasa din nila ito, the purpose we enforcing learning and how will demonstrate the discussion that they have learned. Okay, I have an example. A paper folding is a traditional Japanese art. However, it can be used as an activity to teach concept of plane and solid figures in geometry. Provide students with the given numbers of a colored papers and ask them to construct as many plain and solid figure from the paper without cutting. The meaning of example is the first is complex. Before folding is very easy for student. It just with enhance the ability. Second, from the materials is appealing. Or from the ideas is very appealing for the student. A paper folding is a very fun activity and they can learn something. Okay, number three is creative. Through creative, they can make paper folding. The last one is goal based. The goal based is they can learn something through paper folding, or they can make own task designing.
Scoring rubrics are descripted scoring scheme that are developed by teacher or other evaluator to guide analysis of the products of process of student effort. For example, scoring rubrics are developed by the teacher to be guide to know the level if the student really get the level of competency. Scoring rubrics is a way of a teacher to judge the quality of the student output. Criteria of setting. The criteria setting for scoring rubrics are statements which identify what really counts. In the final output, the following are the most often used major criteria. For example, the quality, creativity, comprehensiveness, accuracy, aesthetic. Um, Criteria setting, so it means that the way of teacher of giving a percentage to do the output. For example, the teacher give quality 10%, but the student get 5% of the total output, so that is criteria for setting. When a scoring rubrics or appropriate evaluation technique, grading AC is just one of example performance that may be evaluated using scoring rubrics. There are many other instance in which scoring rubrics may be used successfully. Evaluate group activities, extended project, and oral presentation. Also, scoring rubrics across discipline and subject matter for the equally appropriate in English, mathematics, and science classroom. Scoring rubrics are typically employed when a judgment of quality is required and may be used to evaluate a broad range of subject activities. One common of scoring rubrics is to guide the evaluation of rating sample. Other methods, authentic assessment, seem apart from scoring rubrics exist in the arsenal of a teacher. For example, checklists may be used rather than scoring rubrics in the evaluation essay. Checklists enumerate a set desirable characteristic for a certain product, and the teacher marks those characteristics which is actually observed. General versus task specific. In the development of scoring rubrics, it will bear in mind that it can be used to assess or evaluate specific tasks or general or broad category of tasks. For instance, suppose that we are interested in assessing the student oral communication skill. General versus task specific. That the example of general scoring rubrics is the way of the overall output of the student, while the task specific is that the teacher assess the student in their task by giving specific rubrics for each criteria. For example, tone of voice 10%, delivery 10%, mastery 20%, total of 40%. Process of developing scoring rubrics. The development to a process, the first step in the process entails the identification of the quality and attributes that the teacher wishes to observe in the student output that would be demonstrate their level of proficiency. Process developing it, that means that process of developing scoring rubrics is the way of the teacher to identify the qualities and attributes of the student output and to know if the student get the level of competency. Resources. Currently, there is a broad range of resources available to the teacher with which use scoring rubrics in their classroom. There are resources deeper both in subject that they cover and the level that designed to assess. So this is the requested resources for the student using rubrics. For example, is Broke Heart 1999 that are science of classroom assessment that missing part of the pedagogy provides a brief but comprehensive review of the literature on assessment in the college room.